Good evening. I'd like to to thank you all for coming tonight to our council meeting. If we could please stand and. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll.
Councilmember Pointer. Here. Councilmember Sherburne.
Here.
Councilmember Gray.
Here.
Councilmember Schmidt.
Here.
Councilmember Dietrich is absent and Mayor Baker also absent, they're excused.
I'm assuming we've all had a chance to look at the agenda. Are there any changes? Anyone know of any changes that they'd like to make? May I have a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any comments? Okay, Bill,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Okay, it's time for our public input. Please state your name and address for the record before proceeding with your comments. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, with the overall public input period limited to 30 minutes. Under Iowa Open Meetings Law, the city council can take no formal action on comments given during the public input period, which do not relate to action items on the agenda. Would anyone like to talk to the city council?
I would. Kurt Minor, 702 East Howard Street. Noticed on the agenda tonight, resolution setting the salaries for officers and employees of the city. I understand that whatever the percent pay raise is negotiated with the police union, that's the percent other city employees receive. But I was wondering who decides what percent raise the city manager receives?
Do you want me to respond to that? Okay, I will respond to that. We have a personnel committee.
Yep.
And the personnel committee met and decided on that place.
The personnel committee consists of,
Myself, Linda, and Connie.
okay,
And I would also like to say that he has not gotten a raise since,
I get the same raise as all the other staff.
right, but not about that.
so if I did my math right, according to this resolution being voted on tonight, city manager's salary would go from 121,000 per year to 130,000 a year, which is almost a 7.41% raise. It appears almost every other employee gets 3%. I guess I would have to ask why. And is the city manager outperforming everyone else that dramatically? That raise is nearly 2.5% times higher than what everyone else is getting. These kind of things result in employee morale issues in other places I have worked. Also, wasn't that long ago, the city manager complained about the Iowa legislature's property tax controls, making it difficult for the city to pay for benefits, etc., and stating that we would possibly have to have reduced services to the citizens. So my next question is, if times are so hard, why is he possibly receiving and accepting such a large pay raise? And citizens are watching these meetings. Next election is 5 months away. I would urge you all to reconsider this particular pay raise before voting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment. When we had the personnel committee, Connie said that Tim has declined raises in the past. Is that true, Tim?
True.
Yeah. So I don't know when you would have declined last time for the raise.
I can't tell you exactly what,
It's been a while.
it's been a while.
Okay, because the way I understood, she's saying it was recently when I took it back.
Part of our discussion that we had too is that we compared Tim's salary to the salary of other city managers in the area. We compared to places like Independence and Old Wine and so on, and felt that his pay was not up to their standards, what they were getting paid. We felt that we needed to pay him commensurate to what other people are getting. We have looked at other jobs to see what people are getting paid from these other communities and feel that most of our people are getting paid what they are getting paid in other communities. But our city manager was well below where those are.
And another reason why we decided this raise is if, for instance, Tim would leave whatever, and we have to look for a new person, they'll say, oh, you were gonna get paid this much rather than the 121. That was another thing that was brought up too. So maybe we'd find somebody good with a higher rate of pay too. That's another thing that's brought up.
Brian, did you want to say anything since we're discussing this?
No, Kurt brought up some really good points, which it has, led to, in my experience, in different organizations that I've worked for, exact same thing that, a higher raise than normal, is kind of a red flag, for other people. I've kind of weighed the whole situation as far as, the evaluation, which, in my opinion, evaluation on paper, I've never liked evaluations on paper, just for the fact that that's just somebody's, can just put down something on paper as far as, whether he's doing a good job or not. The meat of it, what I always look for in any of my employees that I have working for me is how do they perform? What do they bring to the table? And that's how I evaluate as far as, receiving a raise, a good raise or not getting a raise. So that's what my goal will be tonight is how I feel about, the overall performance versus, what I seen in the evaluation.
Okay, Bill, want to say anything?
Well, generally under the public input time, it's not really when we get to comment, we do it during our consent agenda, but yes, looking over some of the pays. Tim is still actually under some other towns around us, surprisingly. And I agree with Linda in that if Tim ever left us and we had to hire outside, yeah, we'll probably have to be going up even higher than what we offered Tim for a salary. When you look at his years compared to what some of the other towns had, I was shocked on what they were making for their years, that they've only been in as a city manager 5 years, So my opinion is, I feel Tim is on the low side of scale and he's still not even up to some of the other towns close to us, so. I will be voting on that later.
I have one more comment. I've got calls from people, like from different people, that said, why is he getting such a big raise? Is there any way that can be pulled out and voted on separately? I don't know.
The council can take action to table the resolution if you choose to do so and have it redirected to the land.
I'm thinking maybe what we need to do then, Linda, if there's a question, is maybe we need to pull it out, have
Consider
a
it separate.
personnel meeting.
Okay. So that affects the rest of the salary, the rest of the workers.
Or we can consider it separately if you want to consider it as a separate item instead of with the consent agenda as a whole. If you want to just pull out the salary resolution and have it considered separately, that is also an option.
Would that just be Tim's?
No, be the whole salary resolution. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to.
I think maybe we should have another meeting about that. So,
So
Is that gonna
that
mess
is,
up
yeah,
Or gotta wait till-
well, let's wait till we get to the consent agenda. We'll have to
Okay.
make the change then.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do that. Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else wanted to talk to the council? Okay, consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes of the June 9th regular council meeting and the minutes of the June 16th goal setting work session. We have a resolution approving the bills. We need to acknowledge the receipt of city reports and minutes. There were two. One was the wastewater treatment, and the other one was,
Planning.
minutes, thank you, planning and zoning, thank you. Liquor license applications, we had two again, one from Dolce Vita, and the other one is for the Delaware County Fair, for the fair. We have a resolution setting the salaries for the appointed officers and employees of the city of Manchester for fiscal year. We have downtown commercial incentive grant application. And that was for the Castle Theater, the Special Drivers Agency, and the Alley. And then we have commercial incentive grant payments, and that goes to the Alley and to you. And those have all been approved by the,
Yeah, and the reason like the Alley, Taz Cam Millers, they approved the acquisition grant and then also paid it, is because that, a lot of times with acquisition, that happens pretty fast, so we don't require that to be done ahead of time. All the other ones have to be done before work begins. But because of timing with acquisitions going on, so he submitted the bills. So I had the committee approve the application, and then we'll go ahead and pay the bills for the acquisition pending council approval.
okay, thank you. We have a resolution amending the employee handbook by amending sections pertaining to clothing allowance, leave, and compensatory time. Do you want to
Yeah,
comment on that
so
now, please?
These amendments reflect what we agreed to in our employee contract agreement, with the police department. So that puts those changes in the union agreement and also in the employee handbook, for the other employees. As I'd outlined it in there, the clothing allowance, police department has gone to a quartermaster system, so they will automatically, chief will have clothes available to hand out at that time. They'll go through the quartermaster to get their uniforms, replacements and stuff like that. They'll still get their $150 a year for cleaning and maintenance. Overtime compensatory time, we're allowing employees to accumulate up to 60 hours. It was historically at 40 hours. They can get up to 60 hours, but by May 31st, they have to be down to 40 hours in compensatory time, or they will be paid out in the first payroll in June to get down to 40 hours. Vacation time, as we discussed during the union negotiations, this does change the schedule for when they earn the vacation and what rates. It's still the same number of weeks. It's just tweaks the years that they earn it at. Sick leave, we did have a family vacation sick leave. You can use your sick leave for 24 hours out of the year. So 3 days, 8-hour shifts, to take care of a sick one at home, whether it was kids, parent, spouse. We have since eliminated the sick leave, family sick, excuse me. And so now you can use your sick leave to take care of family, kids, along those lines.
And family, it is defined in there what constitutes a family member that we used for. So that is defined, and the vacation, it doesn't increase the number of hours we get. Once you max out, it just changes when you earn those,
The accrual rates.
the accrual.
And then bereavement leave, basically, you're allowed to use, if you have someone pass away, bereavement leave within 120 days of the event. You use it for arranging for a funeral or attending the funeral. Take the 3 days. If it's family, it's 4 days for immediate family.
Okay, we have a request for the purchase of a 2025 Chevy Tahoe PPV from Carl's Emergency Vehicles for the police department, cost of $85,924.57. Tim, do you want to talk to this, or do you want Ben to talk?
Ben, you want to handle it?
Yeah, so,
Can you stand up, Ben? Sorry.
even though we wanted to wait, the current K-9 Tahoe is completely out of commission. It's sitting in the garage right now, due to its current state, we don't even know if Carl's is gonna accept the trade. So, they are willing to accept the bid now, begin the build ASAP, and have an operational unit with us in 2 to 3 weeks, pending approval tonight. So they have the equipment, they have the vehicle, they're ready to move for us, I just need a decision for it tonight.
And we had budgeted 85, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we had
And that was
budgeted.
without a trade,
That was without the trade
that
credit.
was without, right,
Yeah.
so we're not,
No, we wouldn't, again, obviously, even if we approve tonight, it's still a budget item for next fiscal year. It's just, I kind of was hoping that maybe we could limp along the Tahoe until August.
what's the mechanical engine,
Yeah, engine,
engine?
yeah, engine and transmission.
So would this be the third transmission?
It'd be the third engine, second transmission. So, like I said, the plan right now, I'll probably come back with another request to release the vehicle. More than likely, I'll probably take it to one of the local dealers to see if they can scrap it for parts. We'll get all of our law enforcement stuff out of it, but I don't think it's gonna be worth the cost to try to get it to Des Moines to have to evaluate for a trade-in. It would cost much to get on a flatbed over there, and probably more than what the vehicle's worth, so.
If we ever did a marketplace, right, just to get. Well, we can do that.
Yeah, we just have to get the rest of the law enforcement stuff out of it.
Mhm.
I just haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that?
When did that go down then?
2 weeks ago, on third Wednesday, during shift, so. Right now, again, just because of the other way the air cars are set up, the K9 is not being used right now. Only for emergencies, I did authorize it. If we absolutely have to use it, he can grab another squad, and take the dog to do the duty, but then he's gotta go back to his home. Right now, it's just with the heat and everything else. I don't want this something else happen, so.
Do we have any more vehicles that are having trouble too, besides them?
All of them except for probably mine and the newer vehicle I just purchased.
Any other comments? Okay. I need a motion and a second first, and then we can pull that.
Oh, no, I-
Or first.
Say, let's go ahead and pull the resolution for the salary.
Makes a motion. Yes.
Yes, I make motion to purchase that.
Oh,
No, just to pull that.
Oh,
The salary
Just
resolution.
pull the salary resolution.
Just a real quick question, is that gonna screw up everybody else's?
Well,
Generally, that would start July first, or July first.
it will start with the payroll that starts on June 29th. I think it's a calendar.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be paid until the July. Sorry, I gotta do the 12. It wouldn't be paid till July 18th. That would be the first payroll where the raises would hit.
So if we wait 2 more weeks, it's gonna screw everybody else up for 2 more weeks.
We do have a committee of the whole meeting next week. We can put it on the agenda there. We just have a special city council meeting to discuss it next Monday.
Even if we approved it on the 14th, we'd still be okay. It just would be, it would be really
It'll be a
crunch
push,
time
yeah.
for us to get the rates in.
I just hate to see the other guys,
Well,
street
especially,
department, water department.
well, the issue we run into
Sewer.
is, we do outsource payroll now, so we have to have those rates in ADP ahead of time, so I'm not sure how soon ahead of time.
Not real far ahead of time, but it would just be, with trying to calculate everything, it would be kind of a crunch to do it on the 14th, so we'd probably be better if we can take action on June 3rd.
30th.
Yeah, I'd like a motion at both 3.5.
I'll second that.
You wanna, and move it to next Monday? I guess the only big thing there is that I'd like to
Move to next week.
move to next Monday, and hopefully everybody's here too, we'll have a full.
Well, we're here tonight either, so.
No, but I was hoping that next Monday, everyone would be able to.
And hopefully you can get personnel committee together ahead of time,
Mhm.
because you want personnel meeting
Yeah.
on.
Okay, any comments on that before I take the vote on that? And then we'll-
Right, or should we? go-
Okay, so we're just-
move it to next Monday.
Yes, that's 3.5. So Linda,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes,
I also vote yes. Okay, so we have removed 3.5 from the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda?
yes, I will make a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, Bill,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Okay, the one item removed from the consent agenda then will be dealt with next week. Okay. We have no public hearings. Let's move on to the regular agenda items. The first one is a device retail license application. And I would like Tim to talk about this for a second.
Yeah, so the legislature did pass a new law regulating devices. Now, a device, per the law, is a device is any equipment or product made in whole or in part of glass or metal that is designed for use in inhaling through combustion, tobacco, hemp, or other plant materials, or a controlled substance. Device does not include a vapor product or a tobacco smoking product made of briar, narcissus, clay, or a corn cob, and not having a surface, aperture, or other feature consisting of metal or glass. This is the Iowa Department of Revenue website. Basically, call it what it is, it's a precursor to, drug paraphernalia. It's typically something you find that, people are using drugs, would use this, as a device, and actually, I'd like to have Ben talk about it just a little bit.
So, with these, again, you can call it what it is. Technically, it's not paraphernalia until it becomes used as an object to consume a controlled substance or a narcotic. But again, history repeats itself, and 9 times out of 10, those are generally what they're promoted, advertised as. If it looks like a duck, it is a duck. I reached out to ABD and just kind of asked for some guidance on what other cities are doing. This isn't the same really as the alcohol portion of it because it's the legislature. The city does have the opportunity to deny these types of permits. Other cities, I believe,
Marshall and Carroll.
Marshalltown, Carroll already denied the same type of application. I've done an inspection on the property. Based on the guidelines that are required for the law, I don't see how they're going to really meet the guidelines. They have to be out of view of anyone 21 ages or under. And where they kindly want to set that up, I don't foresee that happening. And again, I'd rather not open the door to having those types of things openly sold in our community, so. Any questions for me?
So what can we do about that?
The application is here. You have every right as a council to deny that application. Which basically just means they are unable to sell those particular products that they're selling.
So we have two choices, as I see it. One is we can make a motion second and then vote against it. Or the second thing we can do is just not make a motion at all. It will die for lack of a motion.
You
No,
do a motion to deny.
I would,
Yeah.
You would do the motion to deny. Okay,
if that's the route the council wishes.
so I would like to make a motion, on behalf of our city to decline the permit for the tobacco outlet store
I'll second that.
okay.
for a device.
Any other discussion? Okay, so I have a motion from Bill and a second from Linda to decline their application for this device. Okay, Bill,
Yes, decline.
Linda,
Yes,
Brian,
Yes.
I also decline. Thank you. Okay. Water Department big trailer replacement, and I'm assuming we're gonna listen to Mr. Chad explain this to us. So come on up.
All right, so we call it the big trailer, it's the trailer we currently have was a used car trailer that we purchased from a farmer here in Delaware County. Something that we purchased, pretty much the beginning of my career here, trying to, make dig jobs easier. When I started here, we had to go to like 3 to 4 different locations just to get all the equipment rounded up to go, whether it be a water dig or a sewer dig or something with the streets department. Meaning buckets, the attachments for the backhoe, safety equipment that we leave off, like our trenching and shoring stuff. So we purchased this, as kind of a trial by error thing. Works awesome. We love it. The trailer just isn't heavy enough to carry the equipment that we use. So multiple times we've had the axles bend underneath the trailer, and we have a lot of handy guys here at the city, so we fix it. We add metal to it. We've added numerous times fixed boards on the deck, so the deck boards are all busted up on it again. We've put added supports under the trailer. We've really tried to inch this thing along, and then the streets guys were using it, and they mentioned to me that they thought the axles were bent again. So when we started looking at it, there's no more fixing it. It's something I didn't want to have to replace this thing, but it's time for it to go. Another big part of When we get our insurance inspector that comes around and kind of does like a mock audit, is that what you call it, Tim?
Yes,
They find little things that we have going on in each of our department that they think needs to change, and that's one thing that they've mentioned every time they've come through. The water department is this trailer doesn't have the proper tags on it for the trailer, the weight of the trailer, how much weight we can put on it, things like that. Does not have trailer brakes. I mean, it has trailer brakes, but they're so bad that we just never fixed them.
Just a tag trailer, not, right, yeah, or so, these quotes, are they tags as well, or are they fifth wheel, or what?
These are bumper hitch trailers.
Bumper, okay,
So, with the space I have in the building up there, I couldn't go and just, like, no one has a 18-foot deck trailer. Like what I've been needing for this, because of the space I have, everybody's got 22 foot trailer, and then you add the length of your tongue to it. I don't have space for that in that building up there. So, the quotes I reached out to everybody, the deck is an 18-foot deck. With they call them max ramps, so the ramps flip all the way over, that makes the deck. So always at 16.2, you know, for your beaver tail.
yeah,
So the max ramps, that's something that is an upcharge than compared to your regular skid loader ramps. But this way we can actually use the full bed space,
right,
and we do not, the city does not own a trailer that's heavy enough to pull our skid loader. Like last winter or 2 winters ago, we need to take our skid loader to Delclay to get it fixed, and luckily Joe Hildebrand was kind enough to let us borrow his trailer, you know, to get it up there. So this could double as that kind of insurance policy, because with 2 7,000-pound axles, the gross would be 10,000 pounds. And the skid loader, I think, weighs 81 or 8200 pounds. So, you kind of can cover a lot of things, but for the most part, it's to put all the digging equipment on it. So the digging equipment is the jackhammer that we use on the backhoe, the compactor that goes on the backhoe. We used to always carry the extra buckets, so we have different width buckets for it, and we have some that are smooth buckets and some that have teeth on them. And we don't do that anymore, because we figured, well, that must be what's causing it. Back when it kept happening, and we took them off and things were better, and then it still happened. So that's why I went out, procured the 3 bids that I submitted to you guys. And then here to ask to see if we can get that trailer replaced.
is, the Patterson, is that, are all 3 what you need, I mean, as far as capacity, size, everything?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Brian. I want to make sure they're all the same.
All the same.
Weight wise, they'll all
Yeah.
carry the same.
And you'll be able to, they'll have all your equipment, the skid loader, the buckets,
Well, if we put the skid loader on it, we're taking all the equipment off, but
okay,
to put the skid loader on,
right,
yeah, we can't carry.
can't carry,
No.
okay, you'll just take what you need,
So all the trailers have 2 7,000-pound axles on it.
okay.
Yep. And then.
Electric brakes,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep, and then they all were quoted with a heavier duty fender. So we swing things off this trailer with the backhoe, so the fenders get.
dinged up.
Yeah.
And then the other options when dealing with some of these trailer salesmen, when telling them when I was doing with it, they kept thinking I'd be better off with like the deck over trailers. Because then I don't have to worry about wheel wells. I wanted to stay away from that because they're higher.
Yeah.
And we're jumping on and off this thing all the time, getting equipment on and off there. And I don't need to see someone jump off that and get hurt. So, you know, with the having wheel wells, it's just lower to the ground. Makes a lot more sense.
These are all steel trailers, steel and wood deck,
Yeah,
even good cops.
yeah,
Okay, gotta say, he sells a lot of aluminum ones too.
yeah, we're talking about aluminum, so aluminum. The trick with aluminum is, if you do get a little crazy on the weight a couple times, they bend way quick, a lot quicker than a steel trailer will. So. But yeah, I kicked around the idea of the steel bed, but then you're adding cost, so I think. With what we're doing, I think the wood deck's more than enough for us. And you know, how it is, that when board gets broke, it's You'll get another 2x6 trailer board. Put it in there. So.
I hate to say cheap, but if we go with the lowest bid, that you're happy with that?
Yep, that's a, I believe it's Low Trail is the actual brand of that one. So when you see them around town, a lot of contractors in our town have them.
No.
They're a good trailer.
Any other questions for Chad? Thank you. Okay, we have before you the question. Don't ask me, bro.
I was gonna ask you, do we have funding to purchase that?
Chad has,
So yes,
Gotcha.
in our distribution maintenance item or line item, that's where we have funds currently.
Okay.
And you know, then with water department, our funds stay with water department. So, you know, this is something that we can do before the end of the fiscal year, just might be a little cleaner and easier rather than asking for that money to get brought back, you know, into the line item, whatever. But yes, I would purchase this through the distribution maintenance, because that's what we use the trailer for, is we're out fixing stuff.
It sounds like you need a new trailer. Thank you.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we, go ahead and purchase the Patterson equipment trailer.
And I'll second.
Patterson.
That,
Yep.
Any other discussion? Okay, Brian,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Okay, we have an ordinance that we have talked about, for amending our utility rates. And this is actually our second reading, so this was brought up at the last meeting, we voted on it. Tim, would you like to one more time go through it?
Again, as I mentioned in the notes there, this is a 7% increase on water base, sewer base, water per thousand and sewer per thousand charges. We're trying to catch up with some of the costs we're seeing increases on. So if you look into the grouping there, I guess my PowerPoint proposal is not in there, but
It is last
it is in the last meeting.
meeting, if anyone needs to go back to it, they can go to the last meeting.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to proceed with the second reading, consideration of adoption.
Second,
I'll second it.
any other discussion?
No. Because I think we've talked, yeah, we talked it last year, we talked it this year, that, you know, we're trying to play catch up. You know, it is what it is, it's better than getting fixed lump sum thing, but just to let the public know, this will probably be a continuation.
We'll continue to evaluate things every budget year, so we'll start looking at this again in November. But there was a number of years where we only had a 1% increase in our utility rates, and that's where we started falling behind.
We actually had. Or I was in, we actually had a couple years you didn't do any, right?
Correct.
Right, so now we're really trying to play catch up.
Anything else? Okay, Bill,
Yes.
Linda.
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. Okay, the next one we have is an ordinance amending the provisions pertaining to the police department. And being an ordinance, this will come up 3 times again. This is our first reading. Tim,
As we discussed previously, we want code clarification as to who the police chief reports to. The police chief under this provision is still hired, recommended hired by the mayor or appointed by the mayor with council approval, removed by the mayor with council approval. But the day-to-day operations of the police department would fall underneath the city manager position, similar to what we do with all the other departments.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to proceed with the first consideration and adoption of ordinance 004.2025.
any other discussion? Okay, Bill,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. Okay, the next one we have is a resolution approving the Iowa Department of Transportation Federal Aid Agreement of the Transportation Alternatives Program, which is the Grand Avenue Trail Extension Project. And Tim, I'm going to once again ask you to speak to this.
The IDOT has finally sent us the agreement for the grant that we were awarded for $250,000 or 80% of the cost of the trail improvement project. With the grant agreement in place now, it's time to accept it. We've got through our budget work sessions, we are planning for this project to go underway. This is just the formalities as we go through it.
So this secures the funding. We still have to we still have to put it out for bid, and the council still will have the opportunity to review the bids and award the bids, but this just. If it does move forward, then we want to make sure we have this grant funding.
Secure, yes, but we're not anticipating going out for bids on this until January. We'll do that with our other Anderson Street project bid at that time, in hopes we catch a better bid. We have a contractor that wants to do both projects.
The grant will cover most,
80% of the cost.
80%, okay. The other 20% would be local option sales tax.
Local option sales tax is what it will be used for that.
So we would not be borrowing any money to do this.
Correct, there will not be any borrowing.
Cause it's all part of our trail.
Under the local option sales tax, 90% of that is used towards street improvements, street funding, 10% is used towards sidewalk and trail improvements and funding. So this will be covered under the 10% of the voter approved local option sales tax. And we do have the money sitting in the council to cover it.
That's what Jason's been working on. Right?
Yes,
So. Okay, I make a motion to approve with the, oh, do you have a question?
Yeah,
Wait,
I-
wait, let's make,
Go ahead, your
we have to
part,
have the first and the second, and then.
Go right ahead.
Go ahead. You make the motion.
Well, I didn't know she had to comment first before. that.
No, we have to make the first and
No,
second, and then.
Oh,
you can
okay.
Comment.
I'll make a motion to adopt and approve the agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation for the Grand Avenue Trail Extension Project to accept the grant.
Second. Okay, Brian. Now, Linda, you got a question?
Okay, my comment was, I have never been for Grand Avenue, the street. Because for one thing, I don't think there's hardly any traffic. You know, should have put one of those traffic things across to see how many vehicles actually do use that street. But, I was for it, but I will vote for it because we need the funding for it. So.
Any other comments? I personally am excited about putting this trail in because of kids walking to school. I think it's gonna be a great thing for that neighborhood north of it to be able to have those kids walk through on that trail, so I'm excited about it. Any other comments? Okay, Bill,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Linda?
Yeah.
And I will vote yes also. Okay, the next thing we have is a resolution approving the engineering agreement, which is this for the water system booster pumps project.
Chad, come on up.
Oh, Chad's going, okay.
Chad and Sam can share on this.
Okay, I was gonna give it to Sam, so, okay.
Well, Sam can talk about the engineering side of this. This is the project that we've all talked about a couple times. The need to increase pressure for our east end of town. What this would do would be, it would bridge make our two towers on the low pressure side, so it's the Honey Creek Tower on the north end of town, William Street Tower, for the Omaha Tower, would be more of a holding tank than for VFD pumps, and then they would create the pressure for this side of town to match the high pressure side of town. As our town is growing, every direction you go out of Manchester is uphill, and we're limited by the height of our tower for the amount of pressure we can provide our residents. So, we've discussed many routes on different ways to tackle this problem. Every one of them are expensive. I think this is the best route for the money. And to get this project started, we need to start getting the engineering done. And through our budget process, we put $100,000 in our budget to get the engineering done on this. And then we can try to find the funding or different grants, or even try the FEMA route. But this would also then not only cure that pressure problem, but then it would also tackle our booster pump problem that we have down by the river. And that, I mean, it's just time for that to go. So this would help to eliminate that.
Really kill the two birds with one stone.
10 birds with one stone.
10 birds, you know, I knew it was a lot.
Yeah. This is a project that, I mean, Tim probably knows better than I, but it's been probably 3-4 years of talking about it, trying to figure out some answers and the best route to go. And I think this is the best route to go, so he can talk about the engineering agreement side of it more than I can, but, there's gonna be a lot of steps to this process, and this is the first step of the process.
So I got a question, kind of fire department related. You know, we have black hydrants, and you probably know better than anybody. Some of the black hydrants even are around in here. By doing the booster pump, will that help them also, or is it just because they're small?
So black and red hydrants, it'll help them, but they won't get lifted from black and red hydrants because they're on 4-inch water mains.
Okay, that's,
The coding of them won't change, but it will if the fire department hooks up and.
Well, technically, they're not supposed to hook onto those hydrants.
I've seen them go. It's all one go.
But, I mean, there's a house on fire,
Yeah, that's what happened.
but, the color coding on those won't change because of the 4-inch, not because of the pressure or the flow to it.
Yeah.
Now I'm not gonna be able to, and you're gonna gain some flow, but the pressure will be better. You can only push so much water through.
Yeah.
Certain size pipe.
But as far as the east end of town.
Yeah.
North end of town, I mean, west end of town, yeah, the whole town's gonna, yeah.
It solves the other issue with the industrial park water tower when that goes down for maintenance.
Right.
Keeping water pressure for all the industries out there in the area.
The industries, and then the other big one is, our dialysis center out there, we're in the same building as PTS. So they're real picky on water quality, water pressure, everything throughout their equipment. They used to be in the hospital put a booster pump in for them. Now they moved to a different location, so, you know, there's just so many things that go along with us being able to maintain pressure, a steady pressure at all times. And Tim said, when the phones ring a lot when we take the tower down for maintenance. And, you know, it's every 3 years, we have to take it down and get it cleaned and inspected, so. When you think 3 years, about 3 years, but it goes fast. So we have 3 towers, generally, during the tower. We just had William Street Tower down and no one noticed, no one even knew it was down. Because there's 2 towers on that system, so the pressure stays the same. So when you have 1 tower on the system, then everybody knows because you have to do the leaking stuff. We didn't believe that.
Thank you, Chuck. Yes, Sam, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think the only thing, not a whole lot, just basically, kind of like Chad, it'll be a holding tank, so the pumps are mainly for serviceable, so if there's a high demand, it'll come from the towers and it'll bypass the pumps, and there will be backup generators that will be needed for the pumps, because obviously there'll be, that's what's gonna be keeping the pressure going, so there'll be the backup generators for that, so just in order to note that to you guys, but there'll be just a lot of piping and valving changes with what's going on. But yeah, if there's any other questions, like I say, Ryan wasn't able to be here tonight, but if you have any more technical questions, you can certainly help me answer those. But if you have any questions, I can certainly take them and see if I can answer them or pass them on.
Can we do it for 90,000? I'm trying to be a cheap.
How big a generator, backup generator?
I don't know. I don't know. Brian, I believe we have to kind of figure out sizing of pumps and everything to know before we can kind of get into the details on that, I believe. But
So a lot of that will be done once this agreement's made. Well, Foresight already has a backup generator there. The only concern between Ryan and I now, it's a natural gas generator. So if you have a big tornado event, first thing they're gonna shut down in that area is gonna be your natural gas. So that would alleviate our backup pump. So that's something that's gotta be thought about, whether or not we can switch that over. You know, this is once the agreement's made, we can look at the pump that's down at the booster pump currently. That pump was rebuilt about 6 years ago. So we're gonna look at, see if that would potentially work for the, what they're calling the fire flow booster pump. So I think at one site, Ryan and I were discussing that there may need to be a regular VFD and then another one there for what we're gonna call fire flow or like big demands. To try maybe utilizing some of the equipment that we currently have that, I mean, 7 years ago that we built, so they get 15 years out of them. So it's something we can try to reuse or at least have it on the shelf. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's still getting worked out, but as we get into the engineering of it, I think we'll really buckle down on those questions.
You might have noted this, so the pressure reducing valve at Bailey Drive by the tracks will be eliminated, decommissioned, as well as booster station at Ballard River to the direct.
So there's one at
Chad, why don't you come up here if you're gonna talk, because I'm afraid they can't.
no pressure control valves. So we have one at the end of Woodland Drive. So if you drive down that cul-de-sac down there, you remember where it's at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, there's one there, there's one inside the building at well 8. Cause both the high side and the low side get water out at well 8. There's one at the old Alliance site over here right off Marion Street. And we just go across the bridge. That one used to be up at the intersection of South Third, West Marion Street. There used to be a big steel box up and in the terrace.
Mhm.
When we did all the water main relocating over there, we moved it to over by the river, so that way it wasn't in somebody's front yard anymore. And it made it way more serviceable for us. And then we have one down at the booster pump. So those are the 4 spots that we would be able to eliminate those. And, you know, with anything, that's also maintenance that we're not getting rid of.
Get rid of.
Yeah.
Take care of.
We
those.
really are killing a lot of birds with them, so.
Any other questions? Thanks, guys. Well,
That's a good question.
good question, though.
Just ask.
So would anyone like to make it?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Brian.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Okay, Brian,
Yes.
Linda.
Yep.
Bill,
Yes.
and I also vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your information. Okay, engineer updates. Sam, since you were up once, you're sitting close. So anything else you want to talk to us about?
Just, I think the other thing is Anderson Street, so we have a meeting scheduled with city staff tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock to kind of review preliminary plans for Anderson Street, kind of answer questions, discuss some items. So then we can get plans updated for then. Kind of work on plans, easements, assessments, get all that stuff kind of put in place for a public meeting, which will take place sometime this fall. A lot of time, probably September, October timeframe. So we'll probably have that public meeting. Got plans also sent to, preliminary plans sent out to the utility companies, the franchise utilities, so they can get relocating. Did have a discussion with Alliant. Sounds like they're gonna go underground again, and they will be underground on the east side of Anderson Street, running north south. Like we'll have a crossing at Butler, crossing at Howard. So they know those big 242 are culverts are there at Bond Park too, they'll have to get under, so made sure that they're aware of that, but they, their engineer reached out to us, so they're in the process of getting things relocated. We're basically telling the utilities that they need to be done this fall. So then first thing when spring starts, city's project can get underway, because it'll take them likely all summer to get that phase of it completed. You might see some more paint, red flags and stuff for utilities as they start to locate and figure out their design and stuff as well, so.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Jason.
I think Tim pretty much gave you the update earlier. We're working on the preliminary plan phase of the trail plans. We do have a bid letting date signed for the January DOT letting, kind of aligned with the Anderson Street letting to try and take advantage of, multiple contractors, multiple projects at the same time in hopes to help kind of efficiencies of scale, so to speak. Sometimes I've had successful luck doing that in the past in other communities as well as here. So I think it makes good sense, since the Anderson Street project will be the bigger of the two. And if somebody wanted to do both of them, they'd be able to bid those about roughly at the same time. So I think that's all I have, unless there's other questions from anybody.
Thank you. Mr. Beck?
Start with the city attorney.
Oh, city attorney, I skipped RJ.
Nothing on my end, a couple, well, nothing major on my end, got a couple more properties, I guess, that we'll be looking at for options as far as nuisance conditions go. A couple of different processes there, just one of them is apparently doesn't even have a building on it, period, so it's a little different what we'll approach that with, but just getting that started, so I'll have a little more details for you probably by the next, not this Monday council meeting, but you want to put the one after that, will be that's not phase.
Thank you. Okay, now,
All right, couple of meetings ago, we talked about a rafter that broke into at the city shop. You guys were able to fix that. They were able to get in there, raise that ceiling back up and thread that rafter together. So that is repaired for now. We've got possession of the new street sweeper. It's been being used, and the new sewer cameras, so they're starting to use that as well. One of the things that we'll be doing is the Interstate Street televising that sanitary sewer, the storm sewer, verify the conditions, anything, issues we might see or have issues run into. Other than that, it's just a lot of work going on, getting things ready for the summer.
let's see, Aaron,
Nothing.
don't you just want to tell us about your trip or anything?
Had a nice vacation. It's a good week off.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Ben,
I do this stuff for you guys. So I kind of keep my ear to the ground. I know many council members and people in city staff are getting phone calls about some of the proactive policing, especially when it pertains to maybe some of our local alcoholic establishments. So I want everyone to realize first and foremost that officers are acting under my direction. We have a very strict chain of command, so if I have orders that go out or things that need to be in place, either I put them out or Captain Wright does. So when I took over here, I look at things very statistical and logical, and I do what's called a hotspot approach. So I reviewed over 5 years of calls for service and intelligence. So over that review, over the last 5 years, OWIs, revoked driving status arrests, and narcotics are still some of the highest arrestable offenses that we have in our town. So based on that, an average of 26 OWIs occurred per year. And I actually went back and I can provide this information to you guys if you need it. So I went from fiscal years just because I started to go through a fiscal year. So from 2020 to 21, there was 22 OWIs. 21 to 22, there was 26. 22 to 23 was 31. 23 to 24 was 25, and 24 to 25 was 28. However, not all OWIs were alcohol related, but 70% of those OWI arrests were. And on average of those 70% that were alcohol related, almost every single one of them was double or higher than the legal limit, which is 0.08. As far as that goes, supervisors have mandated since my taking over review body cameras on arrests and interactions that may cause distress. Issues of remedial trainings are evaluated immediately, needed by the command staff and the training staff. So another thing that I know you guys heard about is the bar checks. So bar checks that were conducted on May 10th, 2025 were in accordance with Iowa Alcohol Beverage Division's new program that's similar in nature to the tobacco compliance checks that we've done for years. The ABD is also seeing a problem, is now providing funds to departments that go in and attempt to get local establishments to purchase underage. PD receives those payment for bar checks completed 2 times a year. Money goes back to the PD to help offset the cost of equipment needs and other violations that are reported. On 5/10/25, 5 checks were completed. 4 checks were conducted a week later to evaluate minor violations found during 5/10/25. Instead of issuing citations for the minor violations, a grace period was given to fix the violations found. In my discovery, no documented bar checks were completed in Manchester since 11/21 of 2021. Proper procedure for filing a complaint or filling out the complaint form is found online and turned in to me if it's about one of my officers. Officers are afforded a fair and unbiased investigation in accordance with Iowa Code 80.1, which is the Peace Officer Bill of Rights. To date, complaints that have been filed on officers or have been investigated or evaluated have found no wrongdoing or policy violations. These minimal complaints result in a misunderstanding of common police procedure. Best practices are being instilled through veteran officers and command staff as we grow in a very young department. These are not to be misconstrued with minor misconceptions of police procedure, which can be handled with an open door policy, which I have and operate every day. Officers will continue to be proactive in all facets of law enforcement in the effort to cut down on hotspot crimes and needed through areas of enforcement. This is done at my direction and approval for assignments. Supervisors will continue to train, lead, and correct your department on best practices as we move forward. The ultimate goal of this entire thing is to reduce the hotspot crimes by 20 to 30% a year over time, which is natural, obtainable reduction in my belief. So I'll let you guys ask me any questions. I also brought Kevin right here, who is more than comfortable and more than familiar with what my goals have been since I took over. And so it'll be your guys' opportunity, if you have concerns from the citizens, since there wasn't any that showed up tonight, to ask me whatever concerns you may have.
Yes, I'll start off. The calls that I received were from concerned citizens, few concerned citizens. Couple, business owners, as far as, maybe we have new, young police officers that are aggressive. You know, I don't consider aggressive if they're doing their job. I mean, I'll ask you, Chad, I mean, I don't see, other than maybe I'm hearing that I don't know, I guess, being more out in the public, getting to know some of the people out there,
I think a lot of the complaints that maybe you're hearing are things that we haven't really gave a whole lot of attention to in the past. And so now we got these young guys that are actually doing it.
that's what and that's what that's where my heart's going is stuff has been overlooked in the past. And now it's being looked at. And
And I wouldn't necessarily state that it's overlooked, right? I would not use that term overlooked. I definitely wouldn't use the term aggressive. Again, everything that I do is stat-based and logical, right? If we didn't have the numbers that we have, I'm sure the complaints would be in another facet of something that we're doing. And that's kind of what the hotspot theory is, right? I focus year to year on what calls for service are higher, what is taking up most of our resources. And then we dedicate a lot of resources to that in the hope of reduction. Now, naturally, when you put so much effort into one area, naturally other areas are gonna continue to go up. So we're kind of always chasing the tail, but at the same time, we evaluate what's important now, what needs to be evaluated now. And I do think that some of these areas maybe just weren't as frequent. I don't think that they were as proactive. And I have, you know, again, a younger department, but even some of our veterans are still doing the same thing. I don't make my guys do anything that I wouldn't myself do, so I'm doing the same job that they're doing. The only difference is I come back and sign some papers for as well, so.
For years ago, I was actually a part of the Delaware County Sheriff Reserves for 12, 14 years, a long time ago. At that time, the sheriff we had back then, Ron, would ask us to do bar checks. You know, as a young student, I'll say back then, you'd go in with a fellow officer and pretty soon in some of the towns, it was normal to go in and do a bar check. And I didn't realize, since they haven't done any around here since 21, in my younger days, when I might have visited an establishment, it wasn't uncommon to see an officer come walking through, you know, because you don't know who's got a fake ID, who's got this. You know, some of the people today might not remember those days, like I do. And as a reserve deputy, we were doing them in every town in the county. The only town we never did was Manchester. But back then, the deputies that were here before, even before the Captain Wright, they would walk in, do bar checks. To hear people say, and I haven't really had any complaints, but to hear people say that, oh, they're sitting by the bar, whatever the case is, at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's not uncommon. We would be in Edgewood, or we'd be in Hopkins or Ryan. I mean, it wouldn't matter. You were always someplace, whether you were, the towns were so small, you weren't but a couple blocks from a bar way back when, you know? So I really haven't had any complaints. I just don't believe people are used to remembering the way things were years ago, so.
And I always thought it was unique whenever people say that they complain that they saw us sitting next to a bar. But yet we still have arrests for OWI.
Yeah.
Right, being visible, a large part of law enforcement, right, proactivity and being, you would hopefully negate a lot of criminal activity. That's the theory, I guess, behind it, but You know, we're not hiding, we're very blatant in our actions. We're not trying to do gotcha moments or anything like that. We're simply being visible and doing what we're intended to do, so. Any other questions or concerns? And again, if you guys want stats, again, I'm still figuring out the system and I'm getting pretty good at it. So if there are questions or you guys are wanting specific statistics or information, again, I have an open door policy. Any citizen could come down. I have no problem explaining the officer complaint process to them and how that works. But it is a new thing, right? I think, you know, having an outsider come in and be your police chief in the first year and seeing a different way of doing things and a different procedure doesn't inherently make it wrong, but it's new and nobody likes new. But I assure you that every single officer that I employ that works underneath me and Captain Wright, they're doing it for the right reasons. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked them to work for me, so.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Jim. Brian.
Go ahead.
You know, like Tim said about this rafter that was loose. Our shop is really outdated and we need to maybe thinking about it, maybe get a committee. Other people are just this plant is 50 years old and have a discussion about it. Just I don't think it's something that get in there. And the doors aren't big enough to get snowplows unless you're a really good driver. So I decided to bring that up.
It's hot. I hope all the city staff is getting fluid and rest.
We provided Gatorade and cold water for
If
them.
it doesn't rain, I'm hoping Chad could come by my yard and turn the hydrant on so I can spray off while I'm dying mowing grass. But other than that, no, I have nothing.
I have nothing. Mayor Bankin is not here today because she is ill. I talked to her at 4 o'clock and she is feeling better, so I'm assuming that she will be available again soon, but, we hope that she feels better and better and better, so, is returned to full health soon. I guess I need a motion from Bill.
Yep.
And a second from Brian, to disable the panel speaker. I'm sorry, I already asked her.
Oh,
She didn't have anything except that she went on vacation.
Oh, that's right.
Okay. To be adjourned, and we are adjourned.